can't even open my mouth to eat this stupid peanut butter and jelly sandwich. This morning I'm at the dentist. Well, I'm not at the dentist, I'm in a parking lot. But I'm going to the dentist. I gotta get a filling, or a filling that's being redone from a filling that I had. Whatever it is, I've been putting it off for a while, and today's the day where I couldn't put it off any longer. Major thing going on though, however, is I've got to go to Spain in the middle of May. Obviously I need a passport for that. Well, I'm also going to Asia with Snarky Puppy in June, and they need my passport to process visas for the Asian trip. So they need my passport, but I'm gonna be in Spain with my passport. And we're getting down to the wire now. So I am en route to the passport agency with stuff to basically do something I never imagined doing before, which is get a second passport. Very 007. I haven't eaten anything today yet. I just haven't had time. I had the dentist this morning and I couldn't eat before that, and then all this got started. So I can't even open my mouth to eat this stupid peanut butter and jelly sandwich while I'm driving to the passport agency. That hurts. So check out this question from Thomas. I bet you can relate to this. The advice given to many students is practice makes perfect, but practice also makes permanent. So Thomas is saying, I avoid practicing because 1, I'm worried that I'm not practicing a technique or pattern right, and it will become ingrained in my playing incorrectly. 2, if I practice anything, I will also be reinforcing bad habits I don't even know I have, which will make those bad habits more permanent. For example, practicing scales could reinforce a deficiency in my picking technique. He's a guitar player, whether I'm aware of that or not. 3, if I do finally decide to practice some kind of fundamental, I will obsess over getting it absolutely perfect and work on it for so long, weeks or months, that I burn out on it. I'll get frustrated that it will never be perfect and therefore permanently imperfect. That starts a very dark spiral. I can totally relate to that. In fact, I remember when I first got the book Patterns for Jazz. Let me show you. When I was in high school, I got this book. Fantastic book, classic jazz book. And I got this and I thought, this is great. I'm gonna go from the front to the back and I will be some sort of jazz master by the time I get done. Problem was I got stuck on the first 20 to 30 pages because I felt the same pressure, or not pressure, but how do I know when to move on? How do I know when I've got it good enough? And interestingly enough, I had posted a lesson a week or so ago called Practicing Patterns Efficiently. And in the forum, Brannick had posted a question asking about some stuff about that lesson and patterns for jazz and expansions and which scales to focus on. And there was a great response from another member, Ivan, who chimed in with really valuable experience about this. And one of the things Ivan said that I love is talking about these books. The possibilities are so many that there is no way to finish working with the book. And that's true. You can't finish working with the books. I've had this since high school. I've had expansions since college. And it's not ever about finishing it. These books stay on my bookshelf because every once in a while, from time to time, I might just pick it up and thumb through it and look for one idea to practice. And I will practice that for a practice session, and that will be that. So how do you know when to move on? Well, what I do is I practice slowly. That helps me make the connections between my ears and my brain and my forearms and my fingers. And for me, as long as I'm being very self-aware while I'm practicing, I'm very present and really thinking about what it is that I'm doing, that's the important part. I did a vlog earlier called the what the how is more important than the what. That's where I was kind of talking about this concept. It's not about going through the book in a linear fashion. It's also not about the result. There is no mastery. There is no, oh, I'm going to master this book and then I'm done. No, I mean, this sounds very Yoda-esque, but it's about the journey. There is no done. You're just always on your way there. I mean, if there was a done, people like Pat Metheny and Chris Potter and the late Michael Brecker, they wouldn't have continued to practice if you eventually just reach some point where you're done. No, you're always got to be working on this stuff. And fundamentals are, look, they should be called fundamentals. Like, they're the best thing to be possibly working on. That's pretty much all I work on. The best thing I got from this book was the 4 ways to practice. I remember highlighting this in high school. The 4 basic kinds of chord movement: cycle of fifths, sometimes called cycle of fourths, chromatic, stepwise, and in minor thirds. So the concept there is take a pattern, whatever it is, a scale, a triad, a 7th chord, a pattern, a lick, you name it, and practice it not just in one way, but in those 4 ways. Practice it in half steps, practice it in whole steps, practice moving it around in minor thirds and around the cycle. Doing that, taking that one idea and then mentally making those leaps, those transpositions, that's the important part. Practicing in that way is more important than just like by rote memorizing a bunch of patterns that you don't know how to apply. The key to this book is not this book, but it's learning how to apply this or anything else like it. Learning the application is everything. So don't get hung up on the pattern being so perfect before you can move on. I'm also not saying just be sloppy with it, but go slow, be mindful. When you feel like you have a good handle on it, by all means, move on to the next thing, come back. And also don't feel like you have to go number 1 and then number 2 and then number 3. It's okay to move around. And if something is too confusing or doesn't make sense, fine, go back. To his other question about like, how do you know if you're doing it right or wrong? This is where it's really important to have somebody giving you feedback, trusted feedback, a teacher of some sort. Especially in the early years, I really think it's important to have a one-on-one, like a personal, like in the room with that teacher. Later on when you've got some experience under your belt, I think more distant feedback can be really helpful. I mean, my entire online site, it functions that way virtually. Now my students get to see videos of me playing and teaching, and I get to see videos and hear audio of them playing and give them feedback. We're not in the same room, but it still works. But early on, like the first few years, there's no substitute for having a great teacher right there with you who can really say, nope, your finger's in the wrong place, or no, your lip's not right, or no, this, that, or the other. Those are what you need to make sure you have straight in the beginning. Otherwise, you will end up building on bad habits. Anyway, don't get too hung up on this idea of perfection. Yeah, says me, who's completely hung up on that. Keep moving, work on something, be mindful, be present, move on.